How is my husband's condition? Mrs. Van, her hands clasped nervously, looked at the healer with deep worry. The healer sighed. Madam, you know your husband's illness started about 10 years ago, but because of your family's difficult circumstances, he kept delaying treatment. Now, his condition has worsened to the point where he can no longer walk, and that's why you finally dared to invite me. The healer observed Mrs. Van carefully, understanding her family was far from well off. He didn't know what to do, but as a man whose profession was to save lives, he felt compelled to speak frankly so they could prepare themselves. Your husband's illness isn't life-threatening. It's simply prolonged overwork that has led to extreme exhaustion. He needs continuous nourishment and must commit to taking traditional herbal medicine for several years to recover. I don't mean to discourage you, but to cure it completely, the cost won't be small. It could run into several hundred silver coins. At this, Mrs. Van and her daughter, Mo, gasped in shock. Never in their lives had they seen such a large sum of money. Where would they find the money for treatment now? Though accustomed to witnessing countless partings between life and death, the healer couldn't help but comfort the mother and daughter. Please don't worry too much, madam. For now, I'll give you a few doses of herbs to nourish your husband's vital energy. I gathered these herbs myself from around the village, so they won't cost much. However, these medicines are only temporary. For your husband's condition, it's best to seek a complete cure as soon as possible. Mrs. Van's family was among the poorest in Voodoo village. Mr. Dai's health had always been poor, and with no money to invite a healer, he grew weaker with age. By today, his illness had become so severe he couldn't even stand. Looking around their dilapidated house with its thatched roof, there was nothing left of value to sell for money. This harsh reality made Mrs. Van and Mo embrace each other and burst into tears. Mr. Dai was still lying in his room, exhausted, having drifted off to sleep for a while. Only the two women were left, pacing back and forth in the empty house, their hearts heavy with despair. Mo, 17 this year, was of marriageable age, but because her family was so poor, none of the young men in the village showed any interest in marrying her. She was a beautiful and gentle girl. In the mornings, she went to the market to sell vegetables and roots, and in the afternoons, she toiled in the fields, working tirelessly from one task to another. Yet, despite all her efforts, she was still the daughter of one of Voodoo village's most destitute families. Seeing her, everyone felt a pang of sympathy, but when it came to proposals, no one dared to step forward. To be fair, in those days, every household struggled. When people had to scramble for food every day, they were naturally afraid of adding another burden, especially from poor families. Mo understood her place. She didn't dare to dream of a luxurious life. She only wished for a decent, kind man to marry her and take her away, like any other girl. But before she could even marry, her father fell ill, an illness that required a large sum of silver coins to cure. The more Mo thought about it, the sadder she became. Tears streamed down her face, and she didn't even bother to wipe them away. As dawn approached, she got up, tied her hair, and prepared to go harvest vegetables for the market. Voodoo Village Market, situated right in the heart of the village, was small, selling only a few bundles of vegetables, some fish and meat, and a few essential household items. Today, however, everyone who met was abuzz with strange rumors. Really, Auntie? Of course. Later I saw Ann Mo, the servant, spreading the news all over, saying he's dead. It must be true then. Mr. Tan is so rich, but he has no luck with children, does he, Auntie? It's the curse of having too much wealth. You girls are absolutely right. Mo's pile of vegetables hadn't sold anything all morning. Her hands, resting on her chin, listened intently to the conversations of the neighboring stall owners. At first, she didn't quite grasp it, but after listening for a while, she understood they were talking about the eldest son of Mr. Tan, the wealthiest man in Voodoo village. In the village, from old to young, even if they never stepped foot outside, everyone had heard of Mr. Tan. His family was incredibly rich, with vast and endless land and immense wealth. People said that when he was young, he had unjustly seized the property of poor people, even tricking them into signing away their land for cheap. So, whenever Mr. Tan's family was mentioned, everyone felt a sense of dread, fearing his power and his ruthlessness. Despite his immense wealth, Mr. Tan only had 2 wives and one only son, the eldest son. Yet the eldest son had been sickly since birth. Few in the village had ever seen his face because from a young age, he had been confined to the house, lest exposure to the wind harm his precious body. Mr. Tan had spent countless sums inviting healers to treat his son, even bringing back precious tonics and rare delicacies for him to eat. But the eldest son's health only worsened. Thus, even at 20 years old, he had not yet married. While the villagers gossiped about him all day, the eldest son remained unaffected. It seemed times were changing, as the entire Voodoo village was now abuzz with rumors that Mr. Tan was looking for a daughter-in-law, a wife for his eldest son. Although they knew the young master's health was poor, the family's wealth was like flowing water, making the prospect of becoming the daughter-in-law of Voodoo village's richest man a dream for many young women. Mo only heard the gossip and didn't give it much thought. On one side was the richest man in the village, on the other, the poorest. Their difference was too vast. She didn't mind hardship and only wished to find an ordinary husband who would love her and her parents, and that would be enough. Throughout the entire market day, Mo's mind was consumed by these thoughts. She walked home aimlessly, her carrying pole slung over her shoulder, unaware of the earth-shattering event awaiting her. Entering Mo's alley, lined with straight betel nut trees, the scene was peaceful with the faint scent of wild grass. Though it wasn't a place of wealth or luxury, it held her parents and the piles of jute and water spinach she tended daily. As her mind wandered in thought, a crisp voice suddenly reached her ears. "Mr. and Mrs., please consider it carefully. I will return tomorrow." The man and Mo, dressed simply but with an imposing demeanor, looked like a trusted servant from a noble family. Mo quickly stepped aside, making way for the stranger. Mr. Dai and Mrs. Van were deep in thought, not noticing Mo's return. She quietly entered the house and greeted her parents. "Father, Mother, I'm home." Mr. Dai and Mrs. Van then came to, hastily helping her husband back into his room. Mr. Dai's strength was very weak. The medicine from the healer had some effect today, but his vital energy was still greatly diminished. It seemed he wouldn't last much longer. Seeing her father's pale face, Mo quickly ran to his side. Her young curiosity, however, couldn't be suppressed, and she asked, "Mother, who was that man who came to our house earlier? I've never seen him before." Mr. Dai quickly intervened. "Don't ask too many questions for now. Mo, let me discuss this with your mother and see what she thinks." Mrs. Van didn't delay, helping him back into the room. The man who came to our house earlier was the trusted servant of Mr. Tan, the richest man in Voodoo village. They have an only son, the eldest son, who is now of marriageable age but has been frail since birth. So, Mr. Tan wants to find someone with a compatible fate to marry him, hoping it will improve his son's health. As for why they chose Mo, our family can't fathom it. I only know that for our family, this is a lifeline, the only chance to get money for your father's treatment. Mr. Tan's family is renowned for their wealth throughout this region. If Mo marries into their family, she will surely have a better life. Mrs. Van tried to convince herself, but many thoughts still troubled her, making her hesitate to speak. Mo seemed to understand her mother had something heavy on her mind, so she went to the kitchen to cook without a word. Their family's rice had run out days ago. The lean season was approaching, and not just their family, but all their neighbors faced shortages. This morning, after selling vegetables for a few coins, Mo reluctantly took some sweet potatoes, washed them, and put them to boil. She also needed to cut medicine for her father. It had been a long time since Mo had tasted white rice. Who says we're poor and also suffer from bad luck? The two women, Mrs. Van and Mo, shared a few boiled sweet potatoes. But today, Mrs. Van's demeanor was different. From time to time, she would look at Mo as if she had something to say. Mo, sensing her mother's unspoken words, prompted, "Who was that man who came to our house this morning, Mother?" Hearing this, Mrs. Van's eyes welled up with tears. She tried to use the most normal tone to recount everything to her daughter. "I don't know what you think, my child. If you agree, I will let them know." Mo's face instantly turned pale. She had never imagined her marriage would be decided under such circumstances. In those days, most marriages were arranged by parents, but her parents loved her dearly and had never forced her to do anything since she was a child. Mrs. Van still urged Mo to think carefully. But what could Mo think? On one side was her ailing father, and on the other, marrying a stranger, even a sickly one who had chosen her only because of their compatible fates. Mo was only 17. Any girl her age would, to some extent, dream of a beautiful love story. But Mrs. Van's question was like slamming shut the door of love that had just opened before her. She had heard rumors about the eldest son from the market women, but given her humble status, she had never dared to dream of meeting such a rich man. Now, suddenly hearing she had to marry him, Mo was utterly terrified. She understood her situation. If she stepped into Mr. Tan's house, it would only be as a servant to the eldest son. She didn't believe in compatible fates, curing illnesses, or anything like that. She only feared that if the eldest son's condition didn't improve, what would become of her life? Her thoughts were precisely what Mrs. Van feared, and the mother didn't dare to look directly at her daughter's empty, soulless face. She only gently advised, "Think it over very carefully, my child. Your father and I respect your decision." So, after a sleepless night of thinking and crying until her tears ran dry, Mo made her decision. She would marry Mr. Tan's eldest son. In truth, it was merely a marriage to cure the eldest son's illness, but Mr. Tan's family wouldn't treat her poorly. They would hold a grand wedding ceremony, and the dowry would be enough for her father to receive the best possible medicine, ensuring her parents would no longer suffer from hunger. For Mo, this was already more than enough. Who says her status is humble? Who says her family is known as the poorest in the village? Then, what right does she have to decide her own happiness? The heavy wooden gate of Mr. Tan's house closed, silencing the trumpets and firecrackers. What followed was a strange new life with unfamiliar people awaiting Mo. The eldest son did not appear at the wedding reception. It wasn't until she stepped into the bridal chamber that Mo saw her husband. The eldest son had a gentle face, but prolonged lack of sunlight had made his skin pale green, like a gravely ill person. Indeed, he was very ill, and even now he lay still on the bed, his breath as fragile as if about to cease. The healer and the servants hurried in and out, some bringing medicine, others wiping sweat from his brow. Mo stood there, awkward and unsure of what to do, when a woman looked over and called her out for a talk. This was Mrs. Fuang, Mr. Tan's second wife. His first wife, the eldest son's birth mother, had passed away when he was young. Mrs. Fuang had cared for him, attending to his every meal and sleep. But despite all her dedicated nurturing, his health had not improved. Seeing Mrs. Fuang's cold expression, Mo's hands and feet trembled. It took her a long time to stammer out, "Madam, you called me?" Mrs. Fuang's voice, like addressing a servant, made the mistress smile contentedly. Her tone softened slightly. "Since you've entered this house, you must know to follow the hierarchy, be obedient, and serve the eldest son. A lowly woman like you, married into this family, has been blessed for generations. If you're not careful, and something happens to the eldest son, you'll answer to me." Mo trembled from head to toe as she listened. That night was her first in her husband's home, and she remained by his bedside. Though it was their first meeting, the young man's gentle demeanor brought Mo a sense of relief. This isn't a frail old man or a brute. She hoped her future life would be a little easier. Thinking of her aging parents back home and her father's debilitating illness, Mo felt a surge of strength. She still believed that as long as she behaved appropriately and served the eldest son respectfully, he and everyone else in this house would not let her down. But reality quickly slapped Mo in the face with a painful blow. The next morning, as Mo was dozing at the main hall table, a piercing scream erupted nearby. "Oh my God, the eldest son, the eldest son!" Mo started awake. From the door, a stream of people rushed inside. The healer shooed everyone out to examine the eldest son. Mo was pushed outside, still dazed and unsure what was happening. She overheard the servants talking amongst themselves. "Oh no, his face is purple. I'm so scared. What if this time it's more bad than good?" "Shush, don't jinx it. If anything happens to him, we're all dead." They spoke casually in front of Mo, not caring what she heard. Mo understood her place and decided to let go, hoping for a lighter heart. She quietly stood in a corner of the yard, her eyes fixed on the door to the eldest son's room, secretly hoping for something. But it seemed heaven was not on her side. The eldest son's funeral took place that very morning. The ceremony was as grand and elaborate as the wedding the day before, with people coming and going in a constant stream. Mo knelt beside the eldest son's coffin all day. By late evening, only she remained, watching over the incense and candles for him. The servants and staff had taken turns sleeping. When she saw the incense almost dying out, she stood up to light a new one. But just as she brought the tip of the incense stick towards the oil lamp, the flame suddenly flared up, engulfing the lamp in an instant. Mo's hand, holding the incense, trembled. "I haven't even touched the flame yet, so why did it suddenly ignite so fiercely?" Mo thought her eyes were playing tricks on her from lack of sleep, but immediately another strange thing happened. The night was calm, yet a sudden gust of wind swept through, making Mo shiver. The wooden door creaked, and she heard what sounded like someone groaning in pain. Fear gripped her heart, but this was the eldest son's funeral, and Mo believed he wouldn't harm her. So she gathered her courage and stepped outside to see what was happening. The sky was pitch black. Tonight there was no moon, no stars, only the incessant chirping of insects and the pungent smell of incense. Mo was about to turn back inside when suddenly a black cat appeared in the courtyard. Its eyes glowed eerily like a ghost's, making Mo jump. The cat didn't approach her but stood from a distance. However, its fixed gaze made Mo feel as if her feet were rooted to the spot. The lamps inside the house were out, but outside, cold winds still blew in gusts. The cat still stood silently in the corner of the yard, staring at Mo as if hypnotizing her. It was as if some invisible force was drawing her, making Mo unaware that there were no candles burning before the eldest son's altar. Earlier today, Mrs. Fuang had sternly warned Mo and the other servants that the eldest son's spirit must absolutely not be left cold. According to the healer, he had died at an inauspicious hour, and if the fire energy wasn't maintained, the family's business would suffer. Mr. Tan was a powerful man who dealt with important matters and was very superstitious, so no one in his household, from top to bottom, dared to defy the fortune teller's words. Everything had to be followed precisely. So, when Mo realized the incense by the coffin had all gone out, she was terrified, her mind a mess. She hastily ran back into the house to light a new stick of incense. At that exact moment, the clock struck midnight, the hour when spirits easily return to the mortal world. Since everyone in the house was asleep, no one saw the eldest son's coffin shake, as if someone inside was trying to push their way out. Mo knelt by it, both tired and sleepy, so she didn't notice anything different, not even the sound of fingernails scratching against the coffin from within. Inside the coffin, the eldest son opened his eyes after a long sleep, realizing he had been locked inside for who knew how long. The air inside was scarce. His strength was minimal, and he could only weakly scratch the lid of the coffin, trying to make some noise. But no matter how much noise he made, no one heard him. Panic and anxiety made his already weak heart pound. The lack of circulating air made his breathing increasingly shallow. His heart thumped violently due to oxygen deprivation. His eyes glared in anger, mixed with terror, as he realized he had been buried alive. The faint smell of incense filtering into the coffin only made the air more suffocating. The scratching on the coffin lid grew fainter and fainter, as if he knew he was truly facing death. His entire body's strength was depleted, yet his mind remained lucid, replaying everything he had experienced up to this point. The approaching death brought tears of bitterness, anger, and resentment, mixed with the regret of a life cut short by illness, making him unwilling to depart. He used his last ounce of strength to knock on the precious wooden side of the coffin. At this moment, Mo faintly heard a sound coming from the coffin containing her deceased husband. Her blood ran cold with fear. She decided to crawl closer to see what was happening. Tonight was the eldest son's first night. She worried something inauspicious might happen, preventing his soul from resting in peace. But before she could do anything, a sharp, cold voice rang out, "Girl, what are you doing? Is the eldest son's coffin your bed now?" Mo immediately lowered her head, apologizing. Even without seeing clearly who it was, she recognized Mrs. Fuang's voice, the current mistress of the house. "I'm sorry, madam, I dare not." She dared not look up. The coffin lid of the eldest son remained still, undisturbed. Mrs. Fuang secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It was a good thing she was so cautious, coming out in the middle of the night to check the situation herself. She couldn't trust those other servants to do anything properly. Mrs. Fuang looked at Mo with disdain. "Make sure you watch over his incense carefully. If anything happens, it must not leave this house. Girl, beware." "Yes, madam." And so, for the next few days, the eldest son's funeral proceeded peacefully, amidst the grief of Mr. Tan's entire family. The surrounding villagers all sighed, feeling sorry that the young master had died so young. He had just gotten married to bring good luck, but no effect was seen. He had already become a person of the other world. The gossip of others was always harsh. Seeing Mo, her head wrapped in mourning cloth, her face hollow and distraught, everyone whispered and scoffed. HMPH, she thought she'd hit the jackpot, now she sees, doesn't she? Soon enough, that family will kick her out. What else? Who would want her kind? She's only just arrived and already brought death to their son. Mo listened, bitterness welling up inside her. Tears silently streamed down her cheeks. She remembered the gentle face of the eldest son, her husband in name only, with whom she had never exchanged a single word. She remembered her teenage dreams, which seemed so recent but now felt lost forever. Now, she was alone in Mr. Tan's house. She couldn't even return to her parents' home, for in those times, once a girl was married off, it was like water spilled on the ground. Moreover, she was someone married to change the eldest son's luck. What right did she have to decide her own fate? The pungent smell of incense and the mournful sound of funeral trumpets echoed throughout the procession carrying the eldest son. Mr. Tan and Mrs. Fuang cried themselves into fainting spells, and all the servants and staff wept mournfully. Because of this, no one noticed the black cat, which the eldest son had raised since it was a kitten, quietly following the procession. People always said that ghost cats could see ghosts. If it were an ordinary time, they would certainly have noticed the black cat's strange behavior. But the funeral crowd was chaotic, so no one noticed the cat's cries, which were not unlike a child's wails. It growled, frighteningly, making one's hair stand on end. When the funeral concluded, everything related to the eldest son was thoroughly removed from the house. This was because the fortune teller had said he died at an inauspicious hour, and keeping his belongings in the house would bring bad luck to the family. So, the servants burned all of his possessions, his clothes, bedding, even his sandals were not spared. Mo watched the flames rising, feeling dazed. After all, he was still a child of this family, so why burn everything so heartlessly? Everyone else in the house had gone about their duties, leaving only Mo standing in a corner of the garden, watching the fire consume the eldest son's belongings. The heat made her eyes blur. It was as if, in the rising smoke, she faintly saw his face. Mo startled, blinking several times, and the smoke dispersed, the hazy face vanishing. I must be sleepy, I'm just imagining things, Mo mumbled to herself. Suddenly, the cat shrieked. When the eldest son was alive, this black cat would often rub against his legs like a family member. However, the eldest son always slept deeply during the day and only had the strength to stir and wander around his room in the evenings. When he woke up, he would always seek out this cat to play with. After so many years, now that he was gone, the cat had become a stray. For the past few days, it had constantly lingered around the funeral procession, making Mo feel a pang of sadness. She stroked the cat's rough fur and whispered, "You and I are both unwanted in this house now." A sad smile appeared on Mo's face. She thought the cat wouldn't understand her, but it was an old cat, having lived there for over 10 years, so it seemed to have an intuition. The cat continuously rubbed its head against Mo's hand, then tugged at her skirt, as if trying to lead her somewhere. Although she didn't understand, Mo, being an animal lover, reluctantly followed the cat to a place she would never dare to approach, even for several silver coins. Mrs. Fuang's room, located in the middle of Mr. Tan's vast estate. From the moment she first set foot in this house, she had been sternly warned to avoid it as much as possible. Mrs. Fuang and Mr. Tan had separated their living quarters long ago, so this area was usually occupied only by Mrs. Fuang. Mo was curious and wanted to see what the black cat wanted to show her. Though she felt anxious, her steps slowly led her towards the room's door. At this hour, Mrs. Fuang would usually be at the market, observing the buying and selling or supervising the servants in the fields. Mo, being a new daughter-in-law, had not yet been assigned any duties. The cat, which had been winding around Mo's legs, suddenly growled and lightly bit her skirt hem, as if trying to pull her attention. Mo then stopped, listening carefully, and faintly heard very soft footsteps from a distance. She quickly ran to hide behind a hibiscus bush at the edge of the courtyard, her eyes fixed on the direction of Mrs. Fuang's room. Just after Mo hid, a familiar figure approached Mrs. Fuang's room. It took her a long moment to realize this was Anne Mo, the mistress's close servant. The door to Mrs. Fuang's room quickly opened, and inside, Mo gasped when she saw Mrs. Fuang still in her room. But this morning, she went to the market with the wet nurse. What amazed her even more was a strange occurrence that followed. Mo handed a bag to Mrs. Fuang. After receiving it, Mrs. Fuang reached out and stroked Mo's hand. Immediately, he stiffened, trembling as if struck by lightning. His eyes, empty and soulless, turned back towards the main house as if he had been hypnotized. Since childhood, Mo had never been allowed to travel, and her knowledge was limited to her village and the fields. How could she know that what Mrs. Fuang was doing was a form of hypnosis, known only to people from the mountainous regions? With just a light stroke of Mrs. Fuang's hand, Mo immediately forgot everything he had just done and walked away, staggering as if in a daze, until the hypnosis wore off. For many years, Mrs. Fuang had used this method to covertly make Mo do her bidding. Watching Mo's figure disappear behind the trees, Mo was filled with both surprise and fear. Her hands and feet became clammy, trembling as if in the middle of winter. She stared intently at the tightly closed wooden door, terrified that Mrs. Fuang might have discovered her actions. In name, that woman was Mo's mother-in-law, but in reality, their relationship was more like master and servant. Mo had never dared to look the woman directly in the eye. That gnawing anxiety followed Mo well into the night. She tossed and turned, unable to sleep. It felt as if something was flying around her, causing discomfort. The more she waved her hands, the clearer the chilling sensation became, forcing her to wake up abruptly. A young man, around 20 years old, stood before her, dressed in all white. His gentle face was contorted in tears, making Mo scream in terror. It took her a long time to stammer out, Who are you? Why are you in my room in the middle of the night?" The young man didn't reply, only looked at Mo with sorrowful eyes. Tears streamed down his face. She looked closer and realized that what was flowing from his eyes wasn't water, but blood. At this point, Mo jolted awake from her dream, sweat pouring down her body. Outside, it was still pitch black, and the wind still rustled the leaves. Yet, the dream she had just had made her heart pound wildly. The person she met in her dream was the eldest son. It was believed that a recently deceased person appearing in a dream was a bad omen, a sign that something needed to be revealed. But why would the eldest son not appear to his parents, but instead to Mo, his wife whom he had never even truly met? Not to mention the bright red, blood-like tears flowing down his pale face, so terrifying that Mo dared not close her eyes to sleep, fearing she would witness that scene again. And so, Mo stayed awake all night. The next morning, Mrs. Fuang summoned her to the main house. In front of all the servants, her shrill voice, combined with her furious face, left Mo no choice but to obey. "I married you here to be compatible and cure the eldest son. Who would have thought that a woman like you would cause his death on his wedding night? You are a bringer of disaster to this family. But now that I've married you here, if I send you away, the villagers will say our family treats people poorly. So, out of pity, I'll let you work as a servant in the kitchen. Consider it your chance to atone for your sins." Mo felt a bitter pang in her heart. She couldn't grasp the hidden meaning behind Mrs. Fuang's words. On the surface, she pretended to be merciful by letting her stay, but wasn't this just making her an unpaid servant in Mr. Tan's house? And outwardly, she would still bear the reputation of being indebted and favored by the family for saving her. And so, after that fateful morning, Mo officially became a servant in the house. However, Mrs. Fuang still allowed her to sleep in the eldest son's room because no one dared to go near that room anymore. For Mo, this was truly a nightmare, because from that day on, the eldest son appeared in her dreams every night. Sometimes he was silent, sometimes he cried, sometimes he smiled with lips full of red blood. They were strangers just 2 days ago, but under the guise of husband and wife, Mo no longer feared the eldest son. He never harmed her, he only silently looked at her, as if trying to convey something. Mo initially thought it was just her imagination, but gradually, Mo herself began to notice strange occurrences in her daily life. Every morning, Mo would wake up early to prepare the household chores. She and the eldest son's former wet nurse would divide tasks, one to boil water for tea, the other to boil sweet potatoes and cassava and serve breakfast to the masters. Because of this, Mo always got up the earliest. Many times, she would be the only one fumbling to light the fire and cook. But one day, the fire wouldn't catch, no matter how much she tried. She was about to go look for a source of fire when suddenly, it flared up brightly, startling her. But what was more frightening was the faint cackling laughter coming from behind the altar. Mo didn't dare to turn around, knowing that in this place, she was the only living person. If it was from somewhere else, it must be a ghost. Mo's face turned pale. She trembled, unable to make a sound, until the wet nurse woke up, and only then did she dare to move her hands and feet. In her heart, she secretly sighed in relief, believing she had escaped a calamity. Such incidents were rare at first, but gradually, the frequency of these strange occurrences increased. Mo also realized that the ghost didn't harm her. On the contrary, perhaps the eldest son was too lonely and wanted a companion. The next morning was the eldest son's first death anniversary, but Mr. and Mrs. Tan didn't prepare any offerings. It wasn't that they lacked money, but because the fortune teller had said he died at an inauspicious hour, so they should limit celebrations and avoid provoking his spirit, lest he linger in the mortal world and haunt the living. Mo felt a little afraid, but out of pity for his lonely death, she secretly burned some joss paper for him. As she burned the joss paper, the black cat kept winding around her legs. "Eldest son, if you are wise, please rest in peace and don't linger in the mortal world to trouble me," Mo mumbled as she prayed. As soon as she finished, the surrounding blades of grass swayed as if someone was nodding in agreement. Mo thought of the young man's untimely death, and tears naturally fell. Suddenly, the fire flared up fiercely. The black cat also cried out mournfully, the fur on its back standing on end as if it had seen something terrifying. Mo was startled by this sight. Before she knew what to do, a voice echoed in her mind, "Run away, quickly, run away from this place." Understanding, Mo immediately ran to hide behind a nearby banana bush. It was too late. She hadn't managed to stomp out all the burning joss paper, and the smoke still wafted about, catching the attention of Mo, who had just arrived. He looked around suspiciously. Who dared to burn joss paper for the young master? "Madam, I don't know," Mo replied, her entire body rigid. Mo pressed herself behind the banana bush, not even daring to breathe loudly. She recognized the two people who had just arrived as Mrs. Fuang and Mo. If they discovered her, she would certainly not have peace in this house. "Have someone investigate thoroughly. I don't want this house to have any trace of that scoundrel's ghost." Mo nodded. Mrs. Fuang snorted and then changed the subject. "How far along is the urn that fellow at your place is making?" "Madam, I've had someone burn all of the eldest son's belongings. There's nothing left to haunt you, madam." The market had been lively recently. Lately, for some unknown reason, Mrs. Fuang kept feeling as if someone was walking beside her. When she mentioned it to the servants, they said it might be the eldest son's lingering spirit. Coupled with the fortune teller's words, everyone believed he died with unclosed eyes and thus haunted the house. Mrs. Fuang became even more determined to burn and tear apart everything related to the eldest son, even wanting to kill the black cat he raised. If not for the cat's quick escape, it wouldn't be alive today. Unable to kill the cat, Mrs. Fuang remained worried. Whenever she saw something in the house, she felt as if the eldest son's ghost was present. The last time, she asked Mo to contact a healer from the mountains to get a talisman to appease the house. Fearing Mo would spread rumors, she even had to use hypnosis to make him forget about it. She thought that with the talisman, everything would be fine, but it seemed the eldest son's resentment was still strong, so he continued to linger. And today, she even discovered someone secretly burning joss paper for him. This made her even more uneasy. Her wrinkled face grew even more fierce. She snapped, "You, come with me to the market to buy a curse." Mo sighed in relief as the two figures disappeared into the distance. She was about to turn back to the kitchen when a familiar voice echoed in her mind. "Mo, listen to me and quickly get out of here." But when she reached the fork in the road, one leading to the kitchen and the other to Mrs. Fuang's room, the black cat continuously tugged at her skirt, absolutely refusing to let her go to the kitchen. After spending some time with this cat, Mo vaguely realized it had spiritual intuition. Her mother used to say that old cats become spirits and understand human affairs. So, Mo hesitated for a moment, then followed the direction the cat was pointing, towards Mrs. Fuang's room. The silence was so profound that even Mo's footsteps and her thumping heart were audible. Occasionally, a cold gust of wind blew through, making her skin crawl. Fear and anxiety were clearly etched on her face, for in her heart, she knew that if she were discovered, she would immediately face severe consequences. Despite her panic, remembering the eldest son's pained face and his tears of blood gave her strength. Surely there's some hidden truth behind his death. Otherwise, he wouldn't appear in my dreams every day like this. Suddenly, she reached the door to Mrs. Fuang's room. This room was always kept locked, but somehow the black cat knew where the key was hidden. It used its claws to scratch at some loose bricks near the threshold, drawing Mo's attention. She pried away a few bricks and found Mrs. Fuang's bunch of keys. Mo had never set foot inside Mrs. Fuang's room. Indeed, no servant in Mr. Tan's house, except Mo, had ever entered here. Inside the dimly lit room, illuminated by an oil lamp, it looked like a small shrine, startling Mo as she stepped in. The gloomy atmosphere, coupled with the bizarre paintings Mrs. Fuang had hung on the walls, made anyone who saw them break out in a cold sweat. The room wasn't large, only about 20 square meters, but Mrs. Fuang had divided it into a worship area and a sleeping area. Mo quickly scanned past the frightening altar and went straight to the mistress's bed. It looked like an ordinary bed, but Mrs. Fuang had placed many strange objects around it, pieces of cloth with strange symbols and dazzling yellow talismans hanging all around. Mo's hands trembled as she reached for Mrs. Fuang's pillow. She wanted to search for anything hidden there. This woman always acts strangely, and she's also superstitious, trusting fortune tellers and shamans. Plus, with all these terrifying talismans, it's very possible she might hide some unclean things by her side. As she was engrossed in her search, Mo's foot suddenly bumped into something soft on the bed. She instinctively looked down and gasped in fright. It was a human-shaped cloth doll, sewn so realistically it looked exactly like a sleeping person. Mo initially thought it was a corpse under the bed. "Don't touch the doll," the familiar voice echoed in Mo's ears. She quickly drew back. The black cat, standing beside Mo, circled the terrifying effigy. Its tail brushed against the dust on the cloth surface, revealing a line of Chinese characters on the doll's stomach. Of course, Mo didn't understand what they meant. She remembered her mother once telling her about an ancient magic that involved sticking gold needles into effigies to curse people. Given everything in Mrs. Fuang's room, Mo was sure that Mrs. Fuang was cursing someone. Looking closer, she saw a black needle, seemingly poisoned, precisely stuck into the doll's head, as if sealing it with some evil force. Mo's hands trembled as she reached out to touch the needle. "Don't touch the doll," the eldest son's voice pleaded urgently in her mind. Mo's head buzzed as if someone was knocking on it. She wanted to remove the needle but had to avoid touching the doll itself. Time was ticking. Mo didn't have much time. Mrs. Fuang could return at any moment. Mo risked it, tearing off a piece of cloth from her skirt and wrapping it around her palm. With a decisive pull, she yanked out the needle. Blood immediately spurted out in a stream, following the needle's movement. The thought that such bloody, sticky fluid came from a cloth doll made the room's atmosphere even more terrifying. Mo's entire body was trembling now. Only now did she realize how terrifying an act she had committed. Mrs. Fuang's charms could kill her instantly. Mo no longer had the presence of mind to clean up the blood-stained room. She just rushed out, as if wanting to distance herself from all spiritual forces. Mrs. Fuang, whose maternal family was from the mountainous regions, knew some charms that people in the lowlands rarely used. When she married Mr. Tan as his second wife, the eldest son was already 1 year old. His birth mother's health had declined after giving birth to him, so Mrs. Fuang took on the responsibility of raising him from a young age. However, mother and child were not truly bonded by blood. Although the eldest son was cared for by Mrs. Fuang in every detail, he was always clinging to his birth mother daily. Nothing seemed amiss until his mother was struck by a poisonous wind and passed away forever one late winter afternoon. At that time, the eldest son was only 3 years old and suffered the loss of his birth mother, while his father, Mr. Tan, was only concerned with business and building his reputation. All the servants in the house were then under Mrs. Fuang's sole management. From the status of a concubine, Mrs. Fuang officially became the head wife. If she could give birth to another heir, the eldest son would be nothing more than an extra in this house. Because of this, no one paid much attention to the eldest son, and no one noticed his health deteriorating day by day. Mrs. Fuang harbored a lifelong secret. She couldn't bear children. Therefore, she didn't harm the eldest son. On the contrary, she appeared to care for him immensely, with the gentle demeanor of a loving mother. This cunning act successfully deceived everyone in the household, and even the villagers believed she was a good mother. It's a pity the boy was unlucky, so his health simply weakened over time. After coming to Mr. Tan's house, Mo had long heard stories about the wealthy family, which was always a topic of lively gossip among the villagers. But after becoming a daughter-in-law here, Mo realized that everything was not as she had imagined. Mo ran back to her room and locked the door tightly. She kept pressing her rapidly beating heart. The terrifying scene in Mrs. Fuang's room and the cloth effigy haunted her, even in her sleep. The image of fresh red blood mixed with the chilling white effigy appeared vividly in her mind. Mo was still confused, not understanding why she was seeing this, when suddenly the effigy began to move. At first, it was just a few twitching fingers, then its arms and legs all moved as if a person was waking from a long sleep. Mo watched the effigy move like a real person, screaming in terror. She realized she wasn't truly present in this space, she was just an observer witnessing a story. So, no matter how loudly she screamed, it had no effect. Mo's eyes followed the strange events unfolding within Mrs. Fuang's mysterious room. The cloth doll still had a needle stuck in it. Mo understood that the story she was witnessing was something that had happened in the past. The effigy quietly pushed open the room door and slowly moved towards the eldest son's room. It was late at night, so there was no one on the path, and it easily reached the eldest son's side. The eldest son still lay on the bed as usual. It was as if some mysterious magic happened. From the moment the cloth doll entered the room, the eldest son's eyes quickly focused, like a healthy person. Even the most naive person would understand. The eldest son had been controlled by Mrs. Fuang's magic for the past 3 years. People had always speculated about the eldest son's strange illness. During the day, he slept like a dead man, only waking up in the evenings to live normally. It turned out he wasn't sick, but rather afflicted by the wicked woman's dark magic. Mrs. Fuang started by giving him a type of slow-acting poison. This poison didn't kill the eldest son immediately, but gradually weakened his body. After a few years, the air around him became intensely heavy.